And you found us. Hi, everyone. It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. This is my takeout, my takes on all things considerable. Some of you get that joke. You got to go deep in the Emil archive. But here we are. Those of you who have found us, if you look up Emil Amok's Takeout wherever you podcast, you're going to get some old shows. I don't do that kind of show. Well, a similar kind of show, but I don't put it on the podcast venues. I just do it here on YouTube at Emil Amok 1. I also do it on my website or on Twitter at Emil Amok or on Facebook, fb.com/EmilGuillermo.media or Emil Guillermo, or links to it on my amok.com website. And boy, what a glorious one. I love it when your topic just sort of falls into your lap. And I was watching the news. Donald Trump is showing up at the NABJ. And for those of you who don't know, NABJ is the National Association of Black Journalists. Wonderful organization. I have a number of friends who are members of NABJ. And as a member, I'm still a member of the Asian American Journalism or Journalists Association. We practice journalism, but they're journalists who are associating. AAJA, they're having their gathering. If it wasn't last week or this week, I wasn't going to this one. And I wasn't going to it because, it's a new crowd and I do my own thing and I love AAJA, but, I just wasn't as interested in the programming this year. So they have my full support. But I love all the other journalism organizations, NABJ in particular, because they were always the liveliest group at Unity. And Unity was a stab that the journalists tried to create to show that, you can have disparate groups, disparate racial groups coming together, NABJ, NAHJ, the Gay Journalists Association, the Native American Association, the Asian American Association. You get them all together, and it'd be a wonderful thing. They called it Unity, and when it first started, back in the early 2000s, it was wonderful. It was like I can't believe we did it. It was like a coming together that showed that we were a force and that we could push for diversity, not just in coverage, but diversity in the newsroom, which I always said led to diversity in coverage. So if you have employees who are people of color and they rise from the ranks as reporters to editors, they call the shots. They determine what gets covered. That's how you get a modern media that looks like America. I mean, and that was like the dream. And I couldn't believe that we were doing this, right? And then, of course, it fell apart. Funding, a lack of unity at Unity. It was sad. And it disbanded, and we haven't had anything like that since. And the journalism organizations have been struggling, just as the overall news gathering and the media has struggled in the last, I would say, 20 years. And now there's a kind of resurgence. I just say kind of because everyone is cutting back. The big organizations are cutting back. People are turning to more citizen journalism modes if they want to stay in journalism. The more democratized kind of platforms. It's just a strange time to be a journalist, especially an ethnic or a minority journalist. But I had to be excited today that Donald Trump was being invited to NABJ to speak. And I don't know if that was the best idea for Donald Trump. I mean, it would be if he had some idea of what to say when serious questions were posed, but clearly he did not. And that's been the news ever since for the last 3 hours. I mean, it's 2 p.m. Pacific now, 5 Eastern, and the only thing that is leading the news is what Trump had to say about Kamala Harris. How Trump has misidentified Kamala Harris or misrepresented how Kamala represents herself, saying, "Oh, I always thought she was Indian, and now she's black. Oh, that could have surprised me," which is a lie, right? I mean, it's just a lie. It shows that Donald Trump doesn't know what he's talking about, or is misrepresenting his relationship with Kamala Harris. Because I have covered Kamala Harris. I know about her. Covered the San Francisco, the Bay Area. Covered ethnic media politics. And in my lifetime, Kamala Harris has never led with Indian. She has always led with her African Americanness. This is not a criticism. It's just my experience with Kamala Harris and my sense that when you ask me how Kamala Harris should be identified, she is 100% political. I've said it in my recent columns on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog, because I have written about this very topic, about what is Kamala Harris, for years. And not just in 2019, when she first threw her hat in the ring and said, "I want to be president." But before then, when she was AG, before then, when she was running for senator, before then, when she was DA, I know her pattern. And the pattern of Kamala Harris is, to her, race is political. Not a criticism, it's just a fact. In America, race is political, and you don't lead with it. Look at Barack Obama. He didn't lead with race. He was half white, half black, identified black, hardly ever identified white. This is the issue with mixed race people. They can be both. And if you're sophisticated in how you view race in America, you can deal with it. But we're talking about Donald Trump here. And Donald Trump is not that sophisticated. In fact, Donald Trump mirrors his MAGA base. They see race in these really primordial ways. And you're black, you're white, and everything else is like a puzzle to them. They cannot handle diversity. And Donald Trump, when he answered a simple question at NABJ today, I think he was testing the waters about introducing a new birther line of attack, the same attack that he used against Barack Obama. In fact, I believe he knew very well that Kamala Harris has never led with being Indian and then suddenly turned black. He knew she was always black, but he wanted to make it into a discussion point, because it has now become a discussion point. Because CNN, I happened to be watching CNN, they were covering it live. And as soon as she said that, or as soon as Trump said, "Oh, is she Indian? Is she black? When did she turn black?" He's saying this to the NABJ. I knew that it would be trouble. Or not trouble, I knew it'd be a headline. And sure enough, the New York Times, breaking news, I get this bulletin about Trump calling into question Kamala Harris's identity. I get it's in the Wall Street Journal. It's on Axios. It's everywhere, right? I mean, this has become, I think it was a trial balloon launched by Trump to see, I wonder if this works. And I wonder if I can keep this up. Because I would say it is kind of backfiring. Because, number one, it makes Trump look stupid, number one, and ignorant and uninformed. Kamala Harris has never led with being Indian. She's always identified black. Number two, I don't see how this helps Donald Trump, if only to signal to the racists out there that how can you vote for this mixed up person? She's black, she's Indian. You want to go white. I think that would be the only positive thing for Donald Trump. The third thing is it just shows that Donald Trump does not understand the diversity of this country. That is clear as a bell. If you see the energy that Kamala Harris has unleashed just within the last week and a half. I mean, it's amazing, really. I mean, and I'm saying this as a guy who said, oh, come on, Joe Biden, he's a little rough, but, he's not that bad. He can handle it. He can stay in there. He can bring us over the finish line. I was thinking it's not going to get worse. And then as it got worse, and as the polls got worse, he made the right choice. I always said it was Biden's choice. It would have to be Biden's choice. He made it. And now Kamala Harris is the de facto Democratic candidate. And she has unleashed a sense of diversity, a tidal wave of diversity. If you just look at the fundraising, in all the Republicans, the best Republican commentators can say, there's those Democrats, relying on segregation again, because they don't get it. They don't get diversity. They don't get race. They don't get how America is changing. They'd like to. They would like to. They see the numbers for Latinos. They see the numbers of the U.S. population. And instead of embracing the fact that we are becoming this multiracial democracy is what it is. Instead of embracing that, they want to fight it. And they want to go backwards. And they want to say, hey, we got a multiracial democracy, but you know what? Is there anything better than white? That is the translation I get. That's what he's trying to rile up among his base when he says, hey, she's Indian, she's black. What is she? I don't know, but thank goodness you got a white guy like me that you can rely on, right? That's what I think Donald Trump was trying to test. And if he thinks he's going to win with that, good luck to him. I think he's saying that the independent voters out there, whom everyone is trying to get at, the 6% in the 6 states, that would be Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, those independents. I mean, if he's thinking the white vote, the white independent vote, that's what I'm going to get. I don't know if he's going to get that. I think in a multiracial society, a multiracial America, to say, hey, I'm for whites only, you're going to lose. You're going to lose Donald Trump. And interesting, too, is the J.D. Vance thing. Because he's thinking J.D. Vance is going to save him in the working class areas. But this also kind of brings to mind why J.D. Vance really was chosen. I think it's because whites who are anti-diversity love these family messages from people who are anti-abortion, who are pro-family, because to them it's pro-white family. In fact, more white babies is what they're after. And that's how they want to up the birth rate, up the population, make up for that multiracial, that they want to stop immigration. And it's fairly, as I just said, what I just said, you see how the contradictions there, especially with J.D. Vance with an Indian wife or an Indian American wife. He is creating not white babies, but multiracial babies. He should be on the right side of that future of America, and that future of America is one that embraces diversity. So the Donald Trump, his exact statements, I'm going to play the interview toward the end of the program because it was contentious. And it showed that Donald Trump wasn't playing nice. But the quote is from Trump is, I don't know, is she Indian or is she black? This is when he was asked about if Kamala Harris was a DEI hire. He says, I don't know, is she Indian or is she black? I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person. That's just a lie. That's just a lie. She goes to Howard. She grows up in I don't think the part of Oakland she grew up was, I think it was mixed, but she always identified black. She had an Asian mother. And to me, she always was black, and her Asianness was like her secret weapon. I mean, she didn't really hide the fact that she was Asian or multiracial, but she didn't bring it out. She said, I'm black. And then there were those moments when she used it strategically, like when she announced her run for president in Oakland in 2019. She said, as my mother said, what, you kids, you just fell out of a coconut tree? My mother would say. And that's become a meme now, right? The coconut tree meme. She always used her mom and she always respected her. She talked to Asian publications, but she never led with it. And I was not critical of her so much, but I was just saying, when in 2019 she runs for president and she goes on CNN in a town hall, there is no mention at all of her being Indian. Now, I imagine that's when Kamala Harris first came to Donald Trump's mind. So when Donald Trump is saying, oh, she's always Indian, and then she turns black, well, what happened? That's BS. That's BS. Because it's Donald Trump saying it, number one. And number two, we know the truth. She wasn't Indian all the time. She was always black. And the Indianness was like her secret weapon that she would use. Her mom, who passed away, was a cancer researcher. She always relied on the fact that she was smart and the wisdom that she would bestow. She used her mother's background strategically. I don't fault her for that. And whenever I think I cross the line when I criticize her for not being more Indian or more Asian, I catch myself because, we live in a racist society. People look at you, they make their assumptions, and, you're black. And I think And it's sort of the way Obama did. Obama never led with race. He just, okay, there's the assumption, and he tried to deal with you beyond race. Race was not the issue. And if you made the issue, he could, but it was better not to. And I think with Kamala, it's the same way. She was just, I'm black. But I think where it helps her strategically and politically, just look at who backed her with support and donations and volunteer signups. The African American community, the Divine Nine, the sorority sisters, the network of black sorority sisters. In the very first week that she announced, they were there, her ardent supporters, her network, the women, something like 90,000 women, followed up by another 40,000 African American males the next day. A powerful network. And look, that basically is it. The numbers. There are more African Americans than Asian Americans, than Indian Americans. There are more Chinese Americans than Indian Americans. Filipinos are number 3. So Asian Americans are Chindipinos, and like 7 million. African Americans, double that, more than double that. And I remember talking to the late, great Asian American politician, Norm Mineta, who said, hey, you know, it's good to be together as Asian Americans. I mean, you could be Filipino, but it's better to be Filipino with Chinese and Japanese and all the other ethnicities, because together we make a fist. But just Asian American alone is not enough. You got to reach out and act in coalition with all these other groups. And that's what Norm did. He knew it wasn't enough to be Asian American. So Kamala, you know, she doesn't deny her Indianness, doesn't deny her Asianness. She just doesn't lead with it. She's being strategic. She's being political. And I don't fault her for that. But now we see the advantage that it gives her, because here's Donald Trump, serial racist, serial misogynist, serial sexist, and he doesn't know what to do. He has no idea what to do. And he struggles, and he is just, he's lost. I mean, when he said, I respect either, he says, I don't know, is she Indian? Is she black? He said that at the NABJ today. He said, I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't. She obviously doesn't. Well, that's not so obvious, Donald John Trump. Because she was Indian all the way. No, she wasn't. And then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person. No. That's not the way it goes, Donald J. Trump. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black. She didn't just happen to turn black. She was always black and always Indian, always Asian. You can be two things at the same time in this multiracial America. You can. And I think what this exposes, I mean, if Donald Trump was launching a trial balloon about how to identify, how to birth her, Kamala Harris, this has backfired tremendously, because facts are the facts. Number one, she always identified black as she identified Indian. She may not have led with Indian. She always led with black, though. And regardless of all this ethnic nonsense that Donald Trump wants to, you know, put on the agenda, Kamala Harris is American. She is American. She's multiracial American. And you see all the commotion that Donald Trump has caused by raising what should be an irrelevancy. It shouldn't matter about a person's race. It shouldn't matter about how they identify. But it does, because America is racist and sexist and misogynist. And here's the thing about race. You'll recall Rachel Dolezal, the white woman with the curly hair who identified black, but she was really white, and she got in a bunch of trouble. She was in South Carolina. This was a few years back. She was passing for black. And it was embarrassing because she led a number of black organizations, but she was not black. Now, Kamala Harris is not that. I mean, Kamala Harris is Indian and she's black. I raised Rachel Dolezal, her name up, not just because it's a blast from the past, but because in America we have this standard. You are what you say you are. On the census, you can be what you want to be. I can be black if I want to. I mean, I could say in the next census form, count me as black. I want to be a brother. And I will tell you, there were times when I was growing up in San Francisco, and I went to some of the best African-American schools in San Francisco, where I was honorary. For a couple of years, I think I was honorary. Maybe for a year in junior high school. But, because the census form says, hey, how do you identify? Well, that kind of shoots down Donald Trump's argument. Oh, are you black? Are you Indian? Or... We are in a you are what you say you are world. And it's not up to someone else to identify you. You can identify yourself. It's not what people assume you are or peg you and say, hey, this is what you... No, you can be what you are, except, I suppose, when it's wrong. I mean, that's the Rachel Dolezal argument. Well, she wasn't black. Well, she was presenting as black, but she was white. Yeah, okay, that was wrong. But it's complicated here in America because we have all these different standards about what are you? And then, you go to Wikipedia and you see a person of ethnic heritage and they're from the U.S. and they'll say, what are you? And it'll always say American. That's what we're dealing with, folks. We're American. American is multiracial, multi-ethnic. This is really, it's not the new America. It's just the way America is. People come from different lands. We immigrate. We come together. We have families together. We have modern families. We've had modern families for the last couple hundred years. Mixed race families. I have a mixed race family. We celebrate that as America because only America has this kind of society where it's not all homogenous, like in Asia or in most cases Africa. I mean, I say that about Africa because I have friends who are from Africa, but they are Indian. And so my friend likes to identify himself as an African, Asian American because, of course, he immigrated from Africa to America. That's diversity, right? That's the power. That's the power of America. That's the power of American diversity. That's what makes us great. But there are too many people like Donald Trump who want to negate that and say, that is not great. Hey, she's not Indian, she's not black, or she's black, she's not Indian. Hey, white, Donald Trump white, that's the only way you want to go, right? No, of course not. Of course not. Donald Trump says, I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't. because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made the turn and she became a black person. This is Donald Trump talking to the NABJ. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black. Oh my God. Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump. So I think now what this says is we're going to make it easy on people to identify Kamala Harris. We're just going to call her both things. I think that's fair. I mean, America, and especially the journalists, and I blame the journalists because they don't want to call her what she is almost as much as the politicians try to confuse people on what she is and who she is. Kudos to Ed Gordon on a CBS report the weekend of the assassination attempt. When they talked about Kamala Harris, he identified her as the first black woman and first Asian American. That is the phrase. Today, I heard a respected journalist say the first African American and first South Asian or Southeast Asian. No, it's not Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia is Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Southeast Asia, that little pocket there. Asia is big. North Asia, South Asia. South Asia is India, Pakistan. East Asia, that would be China, Japan. West Asia, that would be Borat, right? That would be the Mongolians. Central Asia. That might even include Arabs. Asia's a huge continent. And you start identifying people by these continents and suddenly, oh, where do I put Arabs? Or where do I put Egyptian people? Is Hoda Kotb Asian American? Does she see herself as Asian American? And that's how basically you come to this idea of how do you identify? Because it's your choice. It's your choice, not the choice of your racist enemies. It is not the choice of your racist enemies to call you what they want. You have the right to choose what you want. So, I think Kamala actually has evolved. She used to be all black all the time, taking out her mother as a kind of a secret weapon, as my mother would say. And she's never shied away from, showing her mom as the important role model that she was. It's just that most people just get stuck with that assumption. Black, she's black. And so she doesn't take it out as much to show. Except I think now she is. I think it makes a difference 5 years since she ran in 2019. Being vice president, and then now knowing how diversity has evolved in the United States. It's almost been kind of like under a rock these last few years. I mean, since the Trump time. If you view Trump as a kind of the beginning of a shroud over America, or no, let's not say shroud. Shroud is too morbid. A dark cloud. Just over America. And even with the loss in 2020, January 6th, the cloud never went away. Trump left office. He claimed, oh, it was rigged. The election was stolen from me. No, it wasn't. But he was always in the spotlight from 2020 on, even though he was no longer president. And I think now that Kamala Harris has emerged, my God, it's like there's a revived sense of identity politics now. There is a revived sense, not from the negative aspect that Donald Trump likes to view it from, but from, that personal sense of, who I am as an American. As we define who we are as Americans, we realize, hey, I can say I'm Filipino American, I'm Asian American, I'm Indian American. It's not a bad thing. I'm not running for president. I'm not a politician. But I know that in some politicians' heads, there is a little hesitation. And maybe that contributes to how Kamala says who she is, or when she says who she is. And mind you, I always have called her not black, not Indian. I have always called her political. She's political. It's not a bad thing. It's just, she's political. But I hope that the takeaway for the journalists of any stripe is that, yeah, let's just call her what she is. She is the first black woman and first Asian American to serve as vice president. She'd be the first black woman and Asian American to serve as president. And as you identify her in your stories, just use that identifier. Just, don't get hung up with, or don't get it wrong. Like I said, I heard someone today call her a South Asian woman, or Southeast Asian woman. There, let me say that right. She's not the first Southeast Asian. No. First South Asian, but better just to use the generic global tag, first Asian American. And then, as far as being a black American, okay, you can go down and say Jamaican American. No, just say first black woman. I think those would be good handles for the mainstream. And for the most part, people in the ethnic communities, we got it. We know what Kamala is. And for goodness sakes, pronounce her first name correct. It's not Kamala. It's not Kamala. It's Kamala. Comma L-A. Comma L-A. Think of a comma in L-A. Think of, she says Mamala. Kamala. Can't be hard unless you're stuck with the notion that you must other people. Because from your perspective, you're on defense. I mean, that's Donald Trump. He's on defense. Whites have never liked the sense of diversity. They've always fought this idea of the minorities becoming the majority. It is happening now. It is happening now. And they can't take it. They can't take it. And what we're seeing is a response to just how much they can't take it. Donald Trump, fearless leader, says stupid things like, she was always Indian and then she was like black. When she turned black? She turned black all of a sudden. No, it wasn't all of a sudden. It wasn't all of a sudden. It was like maybe as sudden as how Donald Trump was Democrat for a long time and then all of a sudden he became Republican. Something like that. But it was not all of a sudden. So, like I said, I've been following Kamala Harris for a long time. And I just think that Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris is, she's sort of the right person at the right time, right? Because as America approaches this minority-majority situation, what could be better but a person, a woman, first woman who is half black, half Asian. She's the picture of America. I mean, you can say she looks like America. I mean, look, we're the same color, Kamala and I. Her hair is slightly lighter than mine. But at least I have hair. At least I have hair. So we'll see how this plays out. But I'm amazed that well, I guess I'm not really amazed, because Donald Trump, he's just all about sucking the air out of the news cycle, and he has. Let's see how long it lasts. I'm going to write about it on my Aldef blog, because it's important. It's important to realize we've come to a new level of our sense of diversity. There are still people fighting us, still people resisting, still people who don't get it, who want to deny the fact that America is changing. And when Kamala Harris talks about going forward versus going backwards, this is part of that going backwards to all white preservation, the way where there was no civil rights, there were no voting rights, Title IX, 14th Amendment protections. That's the backwards that Kamala Harris is talking about, where Donald Trump wants to take us as a country. Going forward, what's forward? What's going forward is, hey, you want to see a world where race is truly colorblind and it doesn't matter? Well, why did Donald Trump have to invoke race today? Because that's what he did. If race didn't matter, go head up against Kamala Harris on her own merits. Debate the woman. As Kamala Harris says, say it to my face. But clearly, Donald Trump is a meritocratic disaster. Donald Trump cannot make it on merit, because then it would expose white affirmative action, where the unqualified white male can assume the position of the presidency of the United States without having any qualifications whatsoever. That's the kind of box that Donald Trump is in. And that's why he just wants to confuse us all. Oh, is she Indian? Is she black? When did she turn black? And why insert race, Donald Trump? Say you're both the same color, and then take her on. She'd beat your ass. You know it. Why doesn't Trump ever reveal his grades from college? Why doesn't Trump ever reveal his transcripts? Oh, he says he went to Wharton, but he never reveals his grades. How about his undergrad? What about his high school? He went to military academy or something? I mean, Donald Trump is actually a failed white person. That's the sorry thing. Man, for all the advantages that a white person has, oh my God. He should be so much further along. It really is a pity, isn't it? I mean, it's a pity. Donald Trump, with all the advantages he was given, he should be so much further along. So much further than Kamala Harris. But realistically, no, not really. He's not. And, you know, the only thing he cares about is his golf score. Oh, I thought that was also rich when he talked about J.D. Vance and families. Here's a man with 3 wives and children from each wife, talking about family values. I don't know. I don't think that works. And yet, there are so-called low information voters who will see a white man and, given the choice between a white person and a person of color, will always choose the white person. That is called racism in America. All right, so I want to play in the time we have. This is from the NABJ, and you can hear the defensiveness of Donald Trump. It's ridiculous. Here is Rachel Scott introducing Donald Trump.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time.
I continue in a very hot.
Let me fix this. She's beginning the questioning of Donald Trump.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir.
See, now she was nice, I think. Let me address the elephant in the room. I guess she wasn't referring to like the Republican elephant, but here's her question. Very decent question.
A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true.
See that? That's the birtherism, right? So here Rachel Scott just laying the foundation for her question.
You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that...
See, now, that was Donald Trump's answer. That was his first answer. And he's obviously upset that a question was so well-informed and so pointed that Donald Trump couldn't answer the question directly, which is why or how can African Americans, why should black voters trust you after you've used language like that? And she was laying it out. It was a good question. It was fair. There was nothing nasty about it. And all Donald Trump could say is, well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so horrible. That question, that wasn't a horrible question. Oh, are you from ABC? Because they're a fake news organization, and that's disgraceful. And oh my God, when I heard that, I said, NABJ is probably so happy that they invited Donald Trump because this is going to make news. So here's more Trump.
I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke, and I saved them and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know.
So after going into the black community, he had to go back to the introduction to go after Rachel Scott. And you can see that, all right, if that's his viewpoint, that, he's done all these things for black people in employment, modest at best. At least the reporter allowed him to speak, but still Trump went back after the reporter, calling the introduction horrible.
Exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala,
Oh, there. He said Kamala. You know the name, and if it is purposely mispronounced, it's intended to other and to use racism toward that person. We know that, right? So every time he does it, it's an affirmation that, yeah, I'm racist.
Told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late. Just so we understand, I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something
Mr.
was
President,
wrong.
I would love
I think
you
it's
to
a
answer the
very
question
nasty
on your rhetoric
question.
and why
I have answered the question.
Trust you with another
I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson who signed the Voting Rights Act.
For you to start.
Wait, now, you got to think about that. Donald Trump has said that a number of times before, and each time you've got to say, the best president for blacks since Lincoln? What, you freed the slaves, Donald Trump? Maybe for some blacks, like your buddies, like Ben Carson, or maybe Tim Scott, although you didn't burden him with being your vice president. But really, better than Johnson, who gave us the Voting Rights Act, gave us civil rights, the best president for blacks? I don't think so.
Off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner. I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire.
All right, now, smart NABJ rep there, Rachel Scott, she said the first Black and Asian American woman. I think we're going to start seeing that phrase more often used for Kamala Harris. And that's good. That's the truth. But so many times it just has been sloughed off as unimportant. But here's her question, Rachel Scott's question.
Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition
the words.
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question, a very direct question.
Define it for me if you
I just defined it, sir.
See, this is a trick by people who just don't want to give an answer. And they say, you define it for me, and then the only thing that the reporter can do is define it once, but then after a while know that this is a diversion tactic used by people who don't want to answer the question, and it's total BS. And I was waiting for her to say, sir, I'm the reporter, I'm asking you the questions. But already, this is 2 questions in, and Donald Trump acts like he doesn't want to be there.
Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman?
Well, I can say, no, I think it's maybe a little bit different. So,
all right, so here's the Black Indian answer for Trump.
I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage.
That is an absolute lie. He doesn't know Kamala Harris. She was never only promoting Indian heritage. An absolute lie. She wasn't. I mean, the woman went to Howard, was a member of the Divine Nine, sororities, has always led with her African Americanness. He's a liar, that Donald Trump.
She was Black. until a number of years ago when she
Don't do it
happened to
again.
know she was black. Until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a black
I
woman. She went to a
respect
historically
either
black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do
And
you
I
believe that
think
she is...
somebody should look into that too when you ask, continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a
Oh, see, now he's hinting that some reporters out there should look into this. Look into this. It's birtherism. Is she black? Is she? Anyway, that was Donald Trump today. He made the news. And Kamala Harris comes on a little later on this afternoon. I predict, well, we will see Kamala Harris getting the respect for being both an African American and an Asian American. But I think this is going to backfire on Trump. And people are going to see Kamala Harris as the new America. And I mean, you already saw it yesterday in Atlanta at that rally, Megan Thee Stallion there performing. I think people saw that, wow, people who had given up on democratic politics, they saw that, wow, they said it was a party. I thought it was like some kind of stodgy old party, but it's a party. It's a party now. And I think this is exciting people. It is a party. And Donald Trump doesn't know what to do with it. All right, that's it for our show. We usually go an hour. Hey, thank you for tuning in. Emil Amok here. We like to close with a little meditation, a little loving kindness meditation. Because I might, did I say anything negative about Trump? I just said what he says. I mean, I'm not negative about Trump, but I do offer love to all, even ignorant whites who think that Kamala Harris was promoting her Indianness 100% and not her African Americanness. A little loving kindness meditation. That's how you get through this, because you see all these things that could raise your blood pressure. And thank goodness, after I saw that interview, I took my blood pressure. I'm normal. I'm back to normal, like 120 over 80. That's normal. Less than that. Meditation helps. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal